Good morning, everybody. I trust that you had an absolutely fantastic day yesterday, filled with more information than you could ever imagine, and so you're excited and enthusiastic about this panel here this morning? Yes? Okay. Who has so many ideas for a new business that you hardly know where to begin and you need money? Nobody? Everybody? All right, we're ready to roll. Awesome. Well, let's start the morning out with a little bit of housekeeping. First of all, welcome to the SOAR Focus Summit once again. And certainly we are very thankful for partners who help make this possible, Kentucky Power and Kentucky Innovation. So much appreciation out to them and their recognition of the important work that we're doing here over these 2 days. Second, the most important item of the day, the restrooms are just outside in the hallways, so please know that that's available, and if you need to step out at any point, please feel free to do so. So, we have a wonderful panel here with us. We have some very diverse funding groups here that are going to bring some new information to us that perhaps some of us haven't heard about before. Some are tried and true that most of us will know about, but the good part about this panel today is they are a group of people that certainly will help us work together with them. They're ready, they're willing, they're able. They will try to make it as easy as possible to transcend their agency boundaries, their company boundaries, to make projects work, and that's why they're here, and that's why they're here to talk to you today. So we're very excited to have them, and I'm excited to hear some information that perhaps I haven't heard before as well. So it will be a good day for us. So let's start with the introduction of our panel. Our first panelist is Tim Peru. Tim is with Advantage Capital. Tim has some interesting information to bring to us regarding his organization and how he can bring financing to a project, and we look forward to hearing what he is going to be able to share with us. Our second panel is Robert Coffey. He is with the Small Business Administration, and we've probably all heard of the Small Business Administration before, but many of us may have never even met anyone from the Small Business Administration before. So he's here to change that, and we're excited to have Robert, and I look forward to working with him and look forward to being able to hear what he has to say. Our next panelist is Tim Donovan. Did I get that correct? All right. And Tim is with Donovan Energy. And Tim is on the leading edge of new technologies, bringing new ideas, new concepts, certainly bringing new projects to life in our area. In the eastern region of Kentucky, certainly the 54 Appalachian regional counties, we are very familiar with energy on many levels, but there are new opportunities developing in the energy sector that we may not know about. So Tim is going to have some information for us on how to work with those areas, those programs, and perhaps how to gain some financing to do some projects in that area. Tim Hughes is with us today. Most of you probably know Tim. You've certainly seen him at other SOAR events. I'm always excited when I get to see Tim because he has just the best giveaways, the most useful items. So I'm always excited to see what I can take home that says Kentucky Department of Agriculture. But what a lot of us don't know, and certainly me included, is the depth of the programming that is available through the Kentucky Department of Agriculture and how the Kentucky Department of Agriculture is really there to help us and develop our small businesses, our agriculture programs, and to help us with when we have a good product that we would like to market or a new business that we would like to start. There are sometimes programs within the Department of Agriculture that we wouldn't think about that are pertinent to our new business. So Tim is here. Tim knows those programs well. He probably could have an entire session on his own, and certainly we're glad to have Tim here with us. And our last panelist of the day is Scott Moss. I want to make sure that I did his name correctly. He is with USDA Rural Development. We have all heard of USDA Rural Development. Most of us have had opportunity to work with them in the past. Scott handles business programs for USDA. He has certainly a tremendous background, has worked with many, many successful projects, and it certainly is a first stop if you're thinking about creating a new business, you need financing, you're working in a rural area. Scott is somebody that needs to be in your cell phone, in your contact list. So today, every panel here brings a unique perspective. They bring individualized funding. We don't have any repetition among the panel, so we're going to have an exciting discussion. So we'll start out with going through and having each panelist introduce themselves again and tell you a little bit about what it is that they do and how what they do can apply to the work that you're doing out across the area. So we will start with Tim.
Which one?
Tim Peru. The first Tim.
I've never seen three on one panel. That's pretty exciting. Welcome.
This is going to be fun, folks.
So good morning, everyone. Again, thanks for attending. I'm excited to be here. Name's Tim Perusek. I'm with Advantage Capital. We are a private equity, private debt investor. We work with the New Market Tax Credit Program to provide investments to underserved rural areas, communities with lower income, higher unemployment rates. I'll start a little bit, just a quick background on the New Market Tax Credit Program. If folks aren't familiar, many of you may have already heard of it. But it's a federal program administered by the U.S. Treasury, which is designed to stimulate investment in the communities that I just mentioned, rural, lower income communities. Investors will invest in the New Market Tax Credits. Those investments will come to firms like ours, which we are a CDE or a community development entity. We'll in turn take those funds and invest them either in certain states or on the federal level into low-income communities with the goal basically to help stimulate the local economy, grow jobs in the area, and then hopefully that creates a ripple effect in the area where those small businesses can grow and then hopefully attracts more capital, either private or public capital out in the marketplace. So I'll stop there and let everyone else give a quick summary of what they do.
Okay. So the burning question in the room is, if I have a project and I think that I could use New Market Tax Credits in my project, what is the first thing I should do and who is the first person I should call?
Well, I think I often, when I talk about New Market Tax Credits, people sometimes their eyes roll back in their head and like, oh my gosh, federal program. What am I going to have to do to comply with this? And the beauty of our firm is you don't really have to do anything on the new markets side or worry about your tracking credits and taking credits against the tax return. Our firm does all that. So the New Markets Tax Credits is just a funding vehicle for us as a private investor. So we do all that funding, if you will, on the back end. Really, the only criteria for a company looking for funding is you have to be in a low-income area, which is designated by the U.S. Treasury, which is usually denoted by the last census. We're dealing off to the 2010 census, since that's the latest data we have. So if you have a company that's growing, that's located in a low-income community per the federal government, which is easily findable, if you will. It's based on address. You look it up, or we look it up, find out if it's in that community. You are eligible for investment. Now the hard part is finding investable. Are you an investable company? What are you using the capital for? Is it going to be for job growth? Are you looking to expand your business? Things of that nature. So that's the easy part. And then if you have my contact information, you can call or email me. That's the easiest thing to do.
Okay.
I cover Kentucky. I manage the funds for Kentucky and a lot of states in the Southeast, Georgia, Mississippi, Alabama, Tennessee, and so forth. So,
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Appreciate that. Hopefully we can work this back into our full conversation in just a moment. Robert Coffey is here with us today with Small Business Administration. Robert, could you share a little bit about what you do?
Sure. Hi, I'm Robert Coffey, District Director for the Small Business Administration here in Kentucky. And the SBA is known probably most for our lending assistance programs, so I'll talk a little bit about that, but maybe some of the things we're not quite as known for that would be applicable in the area. If you break the SBA down into the various areas we operate, first it's counseling. Through our Small Business Development Center network, SOAR, women's business centers, veteran business outreach centers. We offer counseling to small businesses to help them in any phase of starting, growing, or expanding. During our access to capital phase of SBA, this is where most of our loan programs are centered. Our 7A loan program, which is our standard guarantee program through commercial banks. Our SBA 504 loan program, which is very specific to capital projects, real estate, fixed assets of that nature. And then we have our micro loan program, which deals with loans up to $50,000. So we try to say that if you have a need from $500 to $5 million, the SBA has a small business loan program that is specific to your needs. Also, we work with those who export and offering loan programs to exporters. The other area that we're probably not as known for, but would be very applicable in this area, is our government contracting. The U.S. government is the largest purchaser of goods and services in the world. And a lot of that money is designed to be set aside for small businesses. So the question I always ask entrepreneurs is, are you receiving your share of those funds? Because if you have a marketing strategy that says to ignore the largest purchaser of goods and services, then there may be a time to adjust your marketing strategy, to focus on the federal government as a customer. The government buys everything in life that you and I buy. We've seen contracts for daycares, for painting, for linen, for T-shirts, anything that small businesses do, anything that you and I use as consumers, the government buys through contracts. So hopefully many more businesses will access the federal government as a customer to help grow and expand their business. Those are the three basic areas.
So Robert, I think we have a couple of local officials in the room with us. Could they raise their hand? We have one local official. Everything is local in Kentucky. People don't oftentimes see past local. They follow what they hear and see in a local level. How can we promote your program and your services and make that information more available to people in local communities so they know to come to you and know that there are resources available?
I found the best way is for local representatives to contact the SBA, ask us to come to present this information to your small business constituents. Because everything is local. Then when the local person is the resource that brings it together, it's better received, better attended than something from the government flying in on an airplane and saying we're here to help. When people really don't sometimes need help in that fashion. It's just information. So I found it over the years that if we have local individuals who ask us to come talk to people in their area, then it's more well received and it leads to better results.
Sounds like you need to speak to some local Chamber of Commerce meetings.
Yes.
That would be awesome.
We would be glad to do that for any Chamber of Commerce, any small group. We do this throughout the state. I've been to events like this in Madisonville, places like Inez, Kentucky. We go all over. Okay. So wherever we have an audience, we'll be glad to come talk.
Awesome. So if there's any Chamber of Commerce affiliates out there, looks like we need to invite Robert down to speak. So, next on our panel, we have Tim Donovan with Donovan Energy, and Tim's going to share with us new and emerging ideas in the energy industry.
Good morning, everybody. Happy Friday. Tim Donovan with Donovan Energy. We're a energy project development and finance company based up in Cincinnati, Ohio. I'm here today specifically to talk about a very esoteric finance product called PACE, which is an acronym which stands for Property Assessed Clean Energy. In Kentucky, that same program is called EPAD, which stands for an Energy Improvement Assessment District. So those acronyms, but the product itself is really a pretty well-known product. It's just that we haven't used it for energy before, but it has been used back to the late 1700s in this country to fund municipal projects. And what we'll do, the way it works is there's a special improvement district that's created, and that special improvement district can be just one property, one asset. And then there's an investment made for the energy infrastructure within that project, and that investment is repaid through the tax roll. So it's a very unique product because it's non-recourse debt. The building is actually the customer, not the company or the individual, so it doesn't impact debt covenants or debt ratios. And it's transferable. So if the building were sold in 10 years' time and there were still 30 years left of the PACE obligation on the building, the PACE obligation transfers with the building to the new owner. And then that new owner repays that assessment through the property tax roll every year. It's a unique form of finance that has not been used in the energy space before. And within the statute in Kentucky, there are minimal savings thresholds. So anything from like an LED lighting retrofit project would be eligible, a new roof, elevators, because the elevators that are installed today are more efficient than the ones that were installed even 5 years ago. So that qualifies as an energy savings project. Mechanical equipment is a big one. So if you operate a large asset and you have a chiller go down or a boiler go down, often there's not the capital to pay for that repair. PACE can come in and pay for that repair as a funding mechanism. I have a lot more to share, including the way that it plays nice with other things like new market tax credits or industrial revenue bonds. You can stack them right alongside that as you're building your capital stack.
That's a pretty interesting concept about being able to pay for the chillers or the coolers or features. Many communities in the SOAR area experienced catastrophic flooding. And while some of the buildings weren't damaged, for some of them, certainly they lost air conditioning, heating units, that kind of thing. Is that an application where PACE could be a player for a local government and or local community?
Absolutely.
Perhaps a 501c3 business or a public facility like a health department or a hospital or so would all of those type of agencies qualify?
Yes, and the thing that's unique is, let's just take like a nonprofit building like a hospital, for example. The hospital doesn't pay property tax today. So how do they repay that? So they don't have a property tax bill to repay. It's not a problem. They can self-assess within that EPAD district. And so even the nonprofits, school districts, they're all eligible for PACE.
So it sounds like nearly everyone in this room are in one aspect or another, except for maybe the private entrepreneur, could be a potential beneficiary of the PACE program if they had information and knowledge of how to go forward.
Correct,
Okay,
yeah, for
awesome.
their assets, yeah.
So it's going to be really fun when we start being able to talk about how our programs can work together. Our next panelist is Tim Hughes, and Tim has an amazing number of programs within Kentucky Department of Agriculture, and certainly I learned something new about Department of Ag every day that I didn't know. So blow us away, Tim.
All right. If I told you this bag had something of value, who would be willing to come up, reach in the bag, and take it out? Okay, you're a little hard to see, but I do see a few hands. Now, if I told you there was a certain amount of danger or risk associated with it, would that change anybody's mind? Let's up the odds a little bit. What if I told you there's a really good chance that you could walk away with a brand new truck? Is that,
Can we look in the bag first?
well, now you're getting ahead. You're jumping the gun. Now you got to do it blindfolded. All right, now. Let me sweeten the deal a little bit. Everything so far has been assumed. There's a $20 real bill, not counterfeit. Now you know there's at least $20 at stake if you come up blindfolded, reach your hand in the bag, and take whatever's there. Let me see the hands. Okay. Well, some of you probably know that there's probably some danger associated with this. Uh-oh. You know, the last person that did it wound up losing a finger. But I was totally honest with you. There was a brand new Ford truck at stake. A couple of folks that didn't get caught with the rat trap wound up getting stung by the scorpion. But there was $20 if you could have got it before the trap got you. I work with the Kentucky Department of Agriculture. I've been in Frankfort 18 years. Prior to that, I had farmed full-time. I've worked with a number of different agencies and different roles within state government. And what I'd like to do is just drive around the Appalachian communities and see where our office has had an impact. Last night, we walked by the farmers market. We've got over 170 farmers markets within the state of Kentucky. Many of those have received cost share support for advertising or up to $250,000 in state and county money to build the farmers market. We have over 500 agritourism venues around the state. Many of those are wineries, pumpkin patches, distilleries, retired horse farms. And so many of those have benefited from infrastructure improvements within their facility, either loans, grants, county funds. In 2020, we had a severe shortage of proteins in a lot of the grocery stores. And so there was a huge interest in buying locally processed meats. Since COVID started, the Department of Agriculture has helped finance over 30 individual USDA processing plants. And some of those have been new facilities. There's one just opened up a few weeks ago in Greenup County, about a $3 or $4 billion facility. And so those are a few of the projects. Wood products are considered agriculture by us. And so we've financed a couple of secondary processing facilities. We provide county funds for individual farmers on a cost share basis through the Agricultural Development Fund and what we call the tobacco settlement monies to improve their livestock genetics, to add livestock processing or handling facilities on their farm. We've got a beginning farmer loan program, an agricultural processing loan program. Those work in conjunction with other lenders in the community. So a lot of different programs. Talked about the risk. Many of you probably say you've never dealt with the Kentucky Department of Agriculture or don't know what we do. If you filled your car up with a gallon of gas at a Kentucky filling station, that pump was inspected by a KDA employee. We're not responsible for the prices, and don't go back and blame that on Commissioner Quarles. I'll get fired before I get home, but we do make sure.
There was a crate of tomatoes out front from App Harvest, so if you want to take responsibility for gas prices, we can have those brought in.
Well, though, that's one of the big projects. Ag technology is really important to us in Kentucky, and companies like App Harvest is making the investment, Alltech and others. But there's other programs that I want to visit with you about, but that gives you a quick overview. We do have an exhibit on the other side of the wall showcasing some of the things we grow and process here in Kentucky, and we definitely want to be a partner. If you're in agriculture, absolutely. If you serve agricultural constituents in your community, we want to be a help there as well.
Tim, do you have people here today that can talk with someone who has interest in your programs, or do they need to find you?
I think I'm the only staff member from the Department of Agriculture physically here today, but our website is kyagr.com or kentuckyproud.com. So either one of those will get you to our portal, and you can find programs. But once again, I'm out here, and we'll have business cards and be glad to try to ask a couple of questions and get you to the best person without going through a maze of web pages.
Awesome. There's something to think about that you may not have considered, even if you're thinking about opening a restaurant. You've never ventured into that arena before. Kentucky Department of Agriculture actually has some programs that can offer some incentives for using Kentucky Proud products. And
absolutely.
I just learned that from SOAR Innovation about 2 months ago, and I didn't know that, and I think that's pretty impressive.
Yeah, if you're a Kentucky Proud member, you can use the Kentucky Proud logo on your marketing. And basically, the statutory rules are it has to be an agricultural product grown or processed in Kentucky. So we have a number of Kentucky Proud coffee roasters, a number of different businesses. Mentioned restaurants here in the region. The Wrigley down in Corbin is a Kentucky Proud member and also uses the Buy Local program. And on her website, she actually lists the farms where the proteins and the vegetables came from, and mentioned that she spent over $500,000 buying local products. And that can be supported by the Buy Local program, which is a 15% rebate back to the restaurant for using those products.
And that is a model that works in the smallest of our communities. You may think that your little town is too small to take advantage of that program, but it has worked for a lot of people. So thanks, Tim.
Thank you.
We also have with us Scott Moss. I'm sorry, Tim. Yes, Scott Moss. And we're very happy to have Scott. He's representing USDA Rural Development. And he is the kingpin of the panel as far as funding agencies and funding opportunities go. He probably has more programs on the ground and has a more extensive network of implemented and completed projects throughout the 54 counties of the Appalachian region than any other agency out there. First, of course, there are many programs within USDA that many of us are familiar with. We all, if we turn on our faucet and have a good, clean drink of water today, or we flush our toilet and it actually works, that was probably funded in part by USDA Rural Development. But there's another side of USDA Rural Development that a lot of folks don't know about, and that's their business arena. And we're going to learn about that today.
Well, thank you. Good morning, everyone. Again, my name is Scott Moss. I'm the business coordinator, business cooperative program director with RD. As was mentioned, RD provides a variety of different programs, from building a community from scratch. We have housing, water and waste, infrastructure, and business programs. And as mentioned, I basically administer the business programs. We have over 25 programs alone that we administer through my division. And majority of those programs are tied to the nonprofits, the CFICs, CDFIs that were here earlier in the earlier session. But we also have a number of programs that are directly tied to the for-profit entities, including the Business and Industry Guarantee Loan Program, the Rural Energy for America Program, or REAP, the Value Added Assistance Grant. There's a variety of different programs, depending on what your operation is, that may fall within your needs. So we're excited to have all these different programs, but there's one program I really want to mention today, which we're very excited about, and it's just been announced, and it's coming out very shortly. It's the Rural Partners Network. This is a collaboration between 16 federal agencies, and I think this is the first time it's ever been done that we're actually coming together as 16 federal agencies. But the goal of the program is to have boots on the ground that will actually help individuals find the correct program, the correct agency that meets your need. And we're lucky that this is actually here in SOAR territory. The counties that are going to be serviced are Bell, Clay, Fulton, Harlan, Knox, Leslie, Letcher, Perry, Whitley counties. So other than Fulton, they're all in the SOAR region. And we're going to actually have 2 employees. RD is going to be the lead agency, and we'll have 2 employees here in Hazard that will be your resource to work with. So we're very excited about this. This is an opportunity to bring your needs to the attention of 16 different agencies, and that's very unique. One other comment I want to mention, all these programs, all these opportunities mentioned here today, we work with them directly or indirectly. And that's one advantage to rural development, is the ability to leverage funds and to work with different programs. So we all work together in a roundabout way, if not directly, but it's a great opportunity for you as a community to outreach these resources.
Awesome. Tim, I have a question. In all your years at USDA Rural Development, what is one of the most exciting and game-changing projects you've had the opportunity to work on here in Eastern Kentucky?
We're really seeing a lot of new advancement, especially in the ag sector, with the hydroponics, with different type of operations. We're really seeing a huge demand in new business growth. SBA typically works with your smaller size projects. Rural development comes in at that larger project, the B&I program, and typically our loans start around $3 million, go all the way up to $25 million. But we have the ability to leverage other programs where we can leverage up to $75 million for a program. And we're starting to see that need and those requests. So we do a lot with these large industries coming into the region, especially if they're located in rural areas. And the energy sector too, we're seeing a lot of emphasis and a lot of interest in our program. So a lot of opportunities.
So we're going to have an opportunity at the end of this session, about 15 minutes, for questions and answers, and you can ask questions of the panel. But for the next 15 minutes, I think it would be really nice if we opened up the discussion among our panelists. They've heard what each other do. Some are more familiar than others with the work of the agencies that are here. But as you've listened to what the other panelists have mentioned that they do, how do you see a common thread between what each of you do, and how could we have a discussion on how your agencies could actually work together in the development of a project? I know some of you have worked together before, some of you have never worked together before. How could we cross boundaries, and where do you see synergies? And any panelist speak up that has an idea, and we can go from there.
Well, I'd like to ask a question of the guest. How many of you work for a local, state, federal government agency in the room? How many of you work for some type of a nonprofit service provider that works in the grant space and things like that? What about academia? Works for a university, community college, school system. If you look around the room, all of those are various service providers, and hopefully most of those individuals are already familiar with us up here. Contact somebody in your local community, whether it's economic development, Kentucky Highlands, Mountain Association, SOAR. Let them know what you're looking at, and maybe they can say, hey, I don't know the details about Scott's program, but I know they've got something that could help. The big issue is all of us operate different programs that have different guidelines, different timelines, and usually we get a call from an individual that says, I heard that you've got money for this. Well, the deadline was last week. And so that's heartbreaking for us because, once we hear about it, the good thing is it's a good chance that that program will reoccur next year. And honestly, it's probably going to take most people a good year to really flesh out their business plan, get other resources lined up, put forward a competitive application, and be ready for that opportunity.
Excellent. That's a really good point. And I think that's probably happened to every single one of us at one point or another, that we heard about a great funding opportunity, and then by the time we saw application materials or were able to get information about the program, it was too late for us to put together a good competitive proposal. And I don't know about most of you guys, but certainly our time is very valuable, and we don't have a lot of time to spend getting experience. So it's nice to be able to have a funding application or knowledge of a funding program in enough time to prepare and send in a good competitive proposal. And to kind of throw in a little bit of information from both one who's used programs and who's been an administrator of a program, the people who read applications, they're usually in a rush, and they have a limited amount of time to spend reading and considering each individual application. And when you get 110 applications and you have enough money to fund 20, I can tell you this, the person that's reading that application, if your application's not well prepared, it's not concise, it's not well thought out, it will go to the bottom of the stack. And the top applications will rise, and oftentimes it's not that your application isn't good, and it's not that your application isn't, quite frankly, brilliant. It's the fact that the better prepared application that shows evidence of being well thought out, well put together, all of the application questions answered, all of the checklist items put together, that's the one that's going to get funded. And it could be that yours was much, much better. But if it doesn't look that way to the person that's reading the application that doesn't know you and doesn't know anything about you or what you're doing, that's what happens to you. And I think anybody that funds applications, certainly I think the panelists might have something to add to that as well.
Yeah, I just want to add that it's imperative to actually talk to us before you start going down the route of an application, because we have so many different programs that, depending on what your need is, who you are, your structure, etc., will determine which route you need to go. And it's really important to come to us, let's discuss your project, what's needed, and then that way we can help guide you in the direction that you need to go. Because a lot of our programs are similar, but there's certain niches with each one that will score better and have a higher chance for approval and award. So again, I think it's imperative that you contact and work with us before you actually start working on your application. And that too, we can encourage them to go to SBA or do other tax credits, a variety of different programs that we can work with you as you go forward.
So we've talked a little bit, or quite a bit, about the federal side of things and the perspective from the federal funders. So how about coming in from and Robert, I'm sure you're going to have something to add to all this, and you probably maybe you ride both sides of the fence. you're federal, but yet you're working with private entities primarily. From the private side, how does that work? What do people need to do to be prepared, or do they just need to have an idea and come to you? How is that going to work from your side?
So for us, it works, again, through our counseling, our Small Business Development Center network, our Procurement Technical Assistance Center, that we partner with these individuals as well, depending on the need of the particular business. If they need a business plan, we're going to refer them to the SPDs as an example first, because that will help them to understand if they need financing, and if so, what does that financing look like? Do they need a line of credit? Do they need a term loan? Do they need one of the other programs? So that business plan is a key document that will outline those true needs of that particular business, and that's the starting point for us to determine which program fits best.
Okay.
Now, if they apply, and if they qualify for traditional financing, then obviously that's first, because our programs are designed for those who don't qualify for traditional financing. So the business plan will flush all that out and then help that company to know which direction to go.
So we have Tim Peru and Tim Donovan both here from private companies. How do you see what we're discussing, and where does it fit into your work? And do they follow Robert's advice and be prepared before they come to talk to you? How do you see that working?
Yeah, I'll take that first. So, and I love the discussion on, I think Tim Hughes had mentioned it, part of our model is trying to find the companies that need the financing, right? We work with both the SBA, USDA, in capital structures for companies. We're just usually behind them in terms of flexible second lien, subordinated debt, can be equity. So we're both those federal programs have a great service to small businesses. We actually will fill the need beyond that, where there's growth capital needed that's not supported necessarily by assets, but there is a pathway to repayment on a longer term basis. That's not necessarily, let's say asset supported. And I know the SBA does, traditional cash flow loans as well. We'll go even deeper in the capital structure to help those companies. So trying to identify the companies that are your companies that need funding, I would encourage you to follow that advice, because we have a direct model. We'll call companies directly, which is, you can imagine, is very time consuming, and it's a low kind of hit rate. So I would encourage the government officials here to utilize the folks here at SOAR to inquire, so you're not having to figure out all the different programs. And Colby offered to kind of help identify that as well, so if he's the conduit or someone else here at the organization. So that's number one. I think it's great advice. So, and I kind of covered both of that. That's really what I want to cover in terms of working with some of the other panelists here. I've got, we've had probably 20 plus investments in Kentucky over the years, anywhere from $1 million up to $7.5, $8 million. And it's been for all kind of things. It's been for, preferred equity investments for companies that can't necessarily, service debt at this point, but they're gonna grow into it. Down to, $1 million loans that take a second behind the collateral for the SBA or USDA for growth opportunities. So a lot of synergies, I think, between all these programs. The challenge for I think the folks in this room is just finding out which one, fits your client or what you're trying to accomplish with that.
So Tim, I'm going to ask a question of the audience before I refer back to you. How many of you are located in an opportunity zone? And do you know what an opportunity zone, 1, 3, 5, 6, 7, 8, several? So opportunity zone is probably something that many of us find perplexing. I think Tim has some experience in his programs in opportunity zones. Tim, could you share with us how what you do can interface, interact, intertwine with the opportunity zone initiative?
Yeah, just back to your earlier question about how all these programs come together. I was just thinking of a hypothetical project. So if there's a new construction project that's a $20 million project, it may qualify for new market tax credits, which Advantage Capital could come in and provide. You may need a loan from the SBA, which can become part of your capital stack. It might include a REAP grant from the Department of Agriculture in that capital stack, and then PACE in that capital stack as well. So I think the unique thing about PACE is it's mutually exclusive. So it works well with other forms of capital. And I think that as you get creative about how you're going to build that capital stack up and fund that project, you've got a certain amount of equity, senior debt, maybe some mezz debt, and then you start to layer in PACE, and then you start to layer in incentives and grants on top of that. You may have a project that looks like it doesn't pencil, and all of a sudden, once you finalize that capital stack, it's actually a really good project. Opportunity zones as well will fit with, PACE works within an opportunity zone, which helps you attract investment, right? It's a tax credit for the investors that will come in and invest in certain opportunity zones. And again, you can put the opportunity zone credits on top of that, at least from a PACE perspective. There's no other, some of the other programs may have an inability to stack or combine credits or grants, but with PACE, there's no such obligation.
So going back to past experience, working with a couple different state and federal agencies, and certainly working in this part of the world for my entire life, what I do see time and time again is we do struggle with capital stacking, and I think that, it's very easy for us to look for complete funding for a project to one agency or another, but we perhaps may be missing some of the larger projects that we could do if we had a better working knowledge of stacking capital. So Tim, that's a really exciting arena, and Josh, I don't see Josh out there, but Tal's here. Maybe that's something we could look at in the future if there would be an interest, is SOAR may be able to put together a panel just on the mechanics of capital stacking. So we are running up against our time. I think we have 2 to 3 minutes left for the panel before we go into audience discussion. Does anyone else have something through this discussion that they think is really important for this audience to know? And feel free, anybody jump in.
Just one more thing from the SBA. One of the other areas we focus on is disaster recovery. Obviously, the tornadoes in recent times in our state highlighted the fact that we're not immune to natural disasters as well. This is the one time where SBA can do direct lending to both individuals and businesses. So whenever there's a declared disaster in your area that's affected, be sure to look for the resources available through the SBA disaster assistance.
Thank you. And that is good words for people when they're suffering. They need to know where they can go and where they can get help. So Tal's on the front row, and he has a microphone, and here is a golden opportunity to ask questions. Don't be bashful. For information from these panelists, you have them. They're captive until 11:30. So now's your time to get some good free information quickly, straight from the source. And if they are not able to answer your question, or your question is too in-depth for what we can go into on this stage, they'll be around for a few minutes after this panel, all of them, and they will provide you their contact information, and they can follow up with you. But at least you can get your question out there. You may think your question's not important, but I'm sure that somebody else in the audience had the same question and was too bashful to raise their hand and ask. So Sandy Kurd is going to step forward, and Sandy's not bashful. So if you can't think of any questions, Sandy will ask them for you. So, all right, go Sandy.
This is true. So Tim, and I mean Tim from Donovan Energy and so forth, this PACE program, if I understood correctly, there's no limitation on the entity that's on the property for the PACE program. It can be a for-profit, it can be local government. Okay, so my question is, where have you been? How come we've not heard of this? How come everybody in this room is not already fully aware of this? Is this new or what?
It's new. It's an old program, as I mentioned before. I think Benjamin Franklin actually built the first fire department in Philadelphia using the same structure. But for energy, it's new. It's relatively new. PACE as a product is only about 15 years old. And in Kentucky, we helped co-author the law here in Kentucky, which was passed in 2015. So it's a very new program from that perspective. We've already delivered over $25 million in PACE financing for projects in Kentucky Hopkinsville and Paducah and Owensville and other places. So we've been able to deploy this capital, but we have this big education piece to get through. First with the customer, so that they understand how this capital is different than senior debt or than other types of debt and other debt instruments they may have used. But also educating the local municipalities as well, right? Because we have to set these districts up, these EPAD districts. We help them through that process, but there's a government interaction here because the tax roll becomes the repayment mechanism. I'm happy to talk more about that offline.
I wanted to add something. Thank you, Sandy, and it's new to us, and thanks to Colby Hall for making this connection and bringing this opportunity to Eastern Kentucky.
Any more questions? This is a great panel. Here's a good opportunity. I know somebody has a question. Jonathan? Oh, no, Jonathan, you're working to put together some interesting projects. You have any questions about financing and networking individual agencies, or no?
Excuse me.
Yeah, so like with the programs with USDA, I know Backroads of Appalachia, something we're looking to do is more agriculture-related programs in the Lynch area of Harlan County. What grant opportunities are available? Are there any specifically for Eastern Kentucky? Is it program specific or?
Yeah, basically, most of the programs that we deal with directly within the Department of Agriculture, we're wanting to add value to things that are grown in Kentucky. And so, as I mentioned, to be Kentucky proud, you just simply have to grow or process the product. And we're going through a new application process. If anybody has been part of the Kentucky Proud program in the past, and if you've not renewed your application this year, I encourage you to do that. We were getting a lot of stale members that were no longer in business and bad contact information. So we're in the process of purging those roles and getting everybody to sign up. But if you're in the ARC, Appalachian Regional Commission counties, you automatically would be a Appalachian Proud member. If you're active or retired military, you can also add the Homegrown Heroes designation. So all of those, help attract your products to specific customers. But counties are allotted a portion of the tobacco settlement funds, the Agricultural Development Fund, and that was based upon the historical tobacco dependence of the ag economy in those communities. But then there's also state funds for projects that would benefit multiple producers and multiple communities. And then the loan programs would be for an individual farm or agribusiness. So be glad to get into any details on those, but the farmers markets has been real popular in this part of the state. I know up in Greenup County, there's an IMALS greenhouse that's added some facilities and then also promotes their products using the Appalachian Proud and Kentucky Proud.
Thank you. I think we missed someone. I couldn't see Tal. I apologize.
Thank you. I have a brewery in Northern Kentucky, and we're looking at adding a winery component to it. And is there a program like in Kentucky? I mean, I'm not in the SOAR region, but is that something to connect with you, Tim, or who connects the dots there?
We could work with that. A couple of different things for the fiscal structure. If you're using your own grapes, that could qualify for some low interest financing. If you're buying grapes from other farmers in Kentucky, where wine gets a little tricky is a lot of the wineries are bringing
Juice
grape
from other
juice
spots,
from other states, and so that doesn't qualify for our programs, but it may for the USDA program.
Yeah, we have a value-added producer grant, and it's basically taking a commodity that you produce and then converting it into a higher value commodity. There are some limitations on the amount of produce or production that you have to grow yourself in order to qualify, but it will basically help with marketing, help with technology, a variety of different things, and that's a program. Also, the B&I program, Business and Industry Guaranteed Loan Program, that's available to anybody in the state and for any type of business. So it could be expansion, startup, purchase equipment, a variety of different things, working capital. But again, we work in conjunction with SBA regarding loan programs But both those value-added producer grant and the B&I program would be potential, and also the REAP program, Rural Energy for America program, depending on how you're set up. If you want to buy new equipment that's more energy efficient, that may be eligible under the REAP Triple E program. So there's a variety of different programs there. Be happy to talk to you about them.
And then the SBA 504 could be also in that mix for any kind of improvements or additional real estate improvements needed or purchases.
Are there any other questions? Wow, you guys are quiet. We've got the money people up here.
Sandy and I aren't above drafting questions. People for questions.
This is my friend Dan Heffernan. He drove up from Louisville. We're really excited to have him. And this is just ad lib. I apologize, Tal, for going off script, but Dan has been involved in a project in Louisville called Chef's Space. It is a really unique project, and if anybody has the opportunity, ask Dan, ask how that works. I've been totally and completely intrigued, haven't had the opportunity to visit them several times, and actually was able to be involved in contracting with one of the chefs that came up and through Chef's Space and did a phenomenal job. But ask Dan how that works, and we certainly haven't seen anything like that in Eastern Kentucky, and don't know if it's even possible, but it's certainly a fascinating concept. So Dan, thanks for driving up from Louisville today.
Sandy, thank you. It's been a pleasure getting to know you the last few months. Enjoy working with you. Thank you. Community Ventures is a Kentucky-based CDFI and CDE. We've been in the new market space for about 20 years, but myself, about three years. Part of that I was with Robert working in the SBA space. So I'm considered a toddler still in many ways in the new markets world. Often we come across projects, so we invest in projects. We also serve as a CD, as a quality or a project consultant the last few years. Often what we're finding is a lot of especially the rural projects, are just too small in many cases for, and I'm told not to use the word traditional, but the forgivable format, if you will, for new markets tax credits. $3 million project is not necessarily a small project, but it can be in terms of the forgivable format under a new market. So I spent the last couple months meeting with Advantage Capital and learning about that project, or that type of structure that you use. The last couple conferences has really been intriguing to me, and I think it really fits into those spaces really quite well. And so I'm been really excited to hear what I have. Can you kind of validate or confirm that, or share a little bit more about your type of your product? It's quite unique from my experience.
No, it's a good question, because everyone doesn't know about kind of new markets, and sometimes I hesitate to even kind of mention new markets, because what we do, like you mentioned, there's a forgivable structure. We call it the AB structure, which is, it's for larger products. So you're right, 3 million is relatively small. So a lot of CDEs want to see a $7 up to $20 million project, because it is quite expensive to document. It takes quite a bit of time. What we've done at Advantage, we actually do the same thing. We advise on those projects, but we don't actually finance those through our company. So where we utilize new markets is really just a funding source. So so that depends on where the company's located. It's got to be in a new market zone. And then we take those funds and we sell it to, or we take those credits, we sell it to investors. We create a pool of capital just like any other private equity firm. We go and invest it in operating businesses. So we don't do an AB structure. We don't do 30-year deals on projects. We do straight operating cash flow loan to companies, just like you would find from any other maybe private finance company or private equity firm. So both on the debt and the equity side. Now what we do have, which is different, is we're incentivized through the tax credits to provide that capital at very flexible terms, which could mean very low upfront fees, if any, longer terms, longer amortization periods, below market rates that you would get otherwise from, let's say, a mezz lender or a sub-debt lender in the market. And we're very patient capital. We don't have outside third-party LPs that are investing that are looking to get their money back in 3 years or 4 years or 5 years. So we kind of take the best of both worlds. We take the kind of the elongated new markets, those are credits that the investor gets. Our investors in this case are insurance companies, other banks, people who can offset their federal tax liability or state tax liability, since we also utilize state NMTC tax credits, and we're in 34 states, and we lobby also those states on behalf of the industry, basically, to make sure those states get credits. So in any event, so it's really just an operating loan, much like USDA, but SBA and USDA, but on a very flexible basis and deeper in the capital structure. So that's kind of the difference. So it's a great question. Thank you.
Thank you. So on behalf of our sponsors, once again, Kentucky Power and Kentucky Innovation, SOAR would like to thank the panelists for taking time from their day to come here and share your valuable information with the group.